So what or how do we figure out what type of personality that you have and what abilities that you have? So we're going to look at psychological tests. There's a couple different ones. You've taken a few of these. You've got your achievement, that's at the end of a unit or maybe at the end of a course. The SOL would be under this one. How much have you learned? Personality tests, these can be as simple as the ones that we see all over social media. It could be even further. You could take a couple of these maybe at if you're going to see a therapist. Intelligence tests, so there's there's a couple different, these are also called IQ tests. You can take these as a kid to figure out where you land if you need more help. And then you have your aptitude tests. What would you do best at? Again, you can find a couple of these on social media sites. The other one that we see most often in the high school, at least that I see most often, is the ASVAB. For the military, where do you land in that and can you do well based on one test? We are going to use these to make decisions, medications, classes, professions, college entrance, SAT, ACT, that type of stuff also is going to be part of it. You have to use certain tests to get like your license to do dental work, teaching, working on the power lines, working on an HVAC system, that type of stuff. All of these are going to be used in one way or another. You can look at them in a couple different ways. You've got scales. A scale is going to have specific criteria that you have to meet, and it's going to have like a cutoff number, and then you are going to be basically judged against other people of the same age or the same whatever on that test. You have your behavior rating. These are used mostly in classrooms, but it can also be used in hospitals, especially if you're in a psychiatric ward. Every once in a while, you might see them other places, just to figure out where you are, if you're healthy enough to go home maybe. So yeah, that type of stuff. These are growing in popularity for a bunch of different reasons, and one of the biggest reasons is because it allows scientists to do more studies on people. Because if you are having these done or taking these, we can, within the psychological field, you can target people with food stuff, with ads, commercials. You can figure out more information about backgrounds and how growing up a certain way affects you, that type of stuff. And it gathers a lot of data. And these aren't always going to be self-done. These can be done by somebody observing you. And that's like in school and stuff, you're going to do a lot of that. You're going to have a lot of that done by a secondary person, either a teacher or administrator or that type of thing. Self-reports, that's what I'm talking about. A lot of this is what do you say about yourself? Problem with that is you can lie, which it's not helpful, but scientists do understand the likelihood of it. So you have to give a margin of error. So within psychological tests, there is a standardization. Every person is going to be administered in the same way. It's going to be scored in the same way. And that was a really big issue about 50, 60 years ago, because again, a lot of these started based on one group of people we're going to stick to the United States, and it's going to be based on white middle-class children, and it's not going to look at children that are maybe in the middle of the country who have never seen the ocean. It's not going to look at different cultures. It's not going to look at different languages. It's gotten better. However, it's still the same issue. To have it standardized, you have to have one uniform way to give and score. You have to look at the reliability and the validity, reliability, consistency of results over time. So if we're all clustered together, everybody's got about the same score. So where does it measure? Is it valid? So did it actually answer the questions that I wanted it to answer? Or was it completely off target? Everybody got about the same. However, we got to work on getting the right information remembered. We do get a little bit of a bell curve from this, and that's what we're looking for on a bell curve, is that it's reliable and valid. The top of the bell curve or the bottom of the bell curve, wherever it lands, we're looking at that piece. You're always going to have outliers, but we really, really want everybody in the middle and on target. So validity scales, so you have to look at answers and how they're answered. Because if you're answering a question based on what you think the test wants or the person wants, then you're kind of going to give yourself away. And this comes into play if you're taking like a job placement test. If you see so-and-so stealing money, what are you going to do? Well, validity, and it's going to say, well, yeah, we have to report that because that's the right thing to do. Now, in reality, we have to look at, is that person who's stealing the money a friend of yours? Are they going to be sharing with you? What are the other outliers? But that's what we're looking at when we're looking at validity scales. Norms, that's the population. The norms, it's a standard that allows for people giving the test to figure out where the scores should be. Should they be super high because the test was too easy? Was it too hard and everybody failed? That type of stuff. And then you have your norm group. Remember, that's your population. It should represent the people you're testing. So if you are looking at the entire school of Dinwiddie High School, you need to make sure that it represents all people in the school. So you're going to look at genders, you're going to look at cultures, you're going to look at race, you're going to look at all of that stuff. You could even throw in GPA because you want to make sure it's representative. Now, computers have gotten a lot of issues, a lot of blowback because they've become really big over the last 15 to 20 years on how to test. And the problem comes with cheating as well. You have to, not with those types of tests, but more of the standardized tests that you have to look at. However, they do allow for more people to take the test and get faster results, which is really important, especially with how standardized testing is being used. And it has been used for a really long time. It's just becoming more overly used, almost. So we have to be aware of that. One system that's being used specifically within psychology is the CASPER, Computerized Assessment System for Psychotherapy, Evaluation, and Research. What it does is allows a lot of scientists to tap into it and use it, and use the data within their own studies. They can use surveys that have been done and just reword a question, or they can reanalyze data that's already been taken. Within that, you've got your personality tests. Now these, we have the objective, specific, it's a questionnaire, objective tests, true and false, multiple choice. The most widely used, as you can see, is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. Whew. But again, these can be, you can go almost anywhere and find personality tests. And the MMPI is going to be the most widely used by psychologists, and then some of the diagnoses are going to be right here. And so a lot of psychologists are going to use these because it's readily available for them to use. They might have a new version, they might need to use the new version, but it's still going to be the same process. Projective, all right, I'm not looking to ask you a specific true or false question. I want to give you an open answer, open-ended question to figure out exactly where you're at, and then I'll analyze your question. Interviews are really like this. News anchors and such, they're looking, maybe not so much for a specific answer, but they're going to be looking for a way to analyze what you say in regards to that question. Oh, the ink blot test. It is projective. They're trying to standardize this over the last 50 years. But the problem comes into the reliability, the validity, and accuracy. How can you give me a picture that's not actually a picture and ask me what it looks like or what I see? Depending on my experiences, I could see something completely different. And that's been a big issue with the ink block test. So what do you see? I mean, right now I see a jack-o'-lantern with ears. Some people might see an evil bunny. Some people might see a bat. Some people might see a bug. These are all answers that I've heard in the time that I've been teaching about ink blots. And then we have this one. All right, some people might see bears doing a high five. Some people might see a flower. I see a black bunny with blood splattering. So it really depends. What do you see? I see a frog. I also see two guitars and a bow. I see people banging on drums. Again, different things. What do you see? I see Bigfoot coming at me with his arms out to his side. I see a big tail. I also see a squished frog. It's just different things. What do you see? I see a butterfly. What do you see? What do you see? This one's kind of interesting because I can see women looking at each other that have like Cindy Lou Who hair, or I see a thumb war about to happen. What do you see? I see chameleons walking up the side of a tree. What do you see? And that's where the problem with ink blots comes from, because I could see something completely different. Then we have the thematic appreciation test. Create a story, use your imagination. Your values and your needs are going to come out of that. And you can look at relationships and true attitudes, depending on what you say. What does your brain create? And that's what the thematic is looking at. So, create a story. This little person has decided he doesn't want to play the violin anymore, but he knows his mom is going to be very disappointed. So what do you do?